We are going to start today by doing 5 more addition problems, and then we're going to move into subtraction. So number 11, this is on page 17. When you are asked to add polynomials together, you are going to add them by combining the like terms. For example, 5x squared is like what other term in this problem?
Negative 3x squared.
Negative 3x squared. So if you're going to add them, what's 5 plus negative 3? 2x squared. Okay, then you move on to the next term. Negative 6x to the fourth can be added to nothing because there's no other term up there that is x to the fourth power. So what do you do with that one? Right, you just drop it down. Shh, there's too much extra talking. Do not forget the sign. Okay, see how this is a negative 6 or a minus 6? You bring it down with it. Okay, then we move on and we see a negative x cubed. Is there something to combine with that?
Yes.
What is it?
Negative 6x.
Okay, and this is a negative 1, so when you add it to a negative 6, you have negative 7x cubed. And then the only thing I haven't underlined so far is this negative 4x. And since it was the only thing not underlined, it obviously doesn't have anything to combine with, so you just bring it down. Now, something that we didn't talk about yesterday because most of the problems were already in it is standard form. Standard form is when you rewrite the polynomial so that the exponents decrease. Okay, which term up there has the highest exponent? This one. So it will be rewritten first when you're writing it in standard form. Then after that, what's the next highest exponent? Which term? Negative 7x cubed. Then the next highest one is 2x squared, and that's a positive 2, so make sure you write plus 2x squared. You can't just have a blank. And then minus 4x. Now it's in standard form because the exponents go from largest to smallest. Now we can name it. What degree is it? Degree 4, but what's the special name for that? Quartic. And then, yes, there is not a special name when it has 4 terms, so you write polynomial with 4. Okay, problem number 12. It's nice. Just leave it open, okay? Not all the way, just kind of crack it. Not yet, not right now. Number 12. The first term we have is 2k to the fourth. Can it be added to anything over here? 6k to the fourth, which is what? 8k to the fourth power. Okay, then moving on, we have 5k squared. Can it be added with anything? What? Negative 2k squared. What's 5 plus negative 2? 3k squared. And it's positive, so make sure you write plus 3k squared. Okay, and then we have 8k, and can it be combined with anything? And that's a negative 1, so 8 plus negative 1 is 7k. Is this in standard form? Yes, they're already in order from greatest to least, 4 to 1. It doesn't matter if one skipped as long as you've got them greatest to smallest. So what's the name of this one? Quartic because it's degree 4, trinomial because there are 3 terms. That's fine, but you just need to know for sure whether the Q stands for quadratic, which is degree 2, or quartic, which is degree 4. Okay, number 13. Okay, the first term we see is 6m cubed. Is there anything that we can add to it? 6m cubed. And when adding, that makes a, right? Okay, then the next one we see is negative 5. And what can it be added to?
5.
What happens?
0.
They cancel, so you just don't write anything for that term. Okay, and then we see that we have a negative m to the fourth, which is negative 1m to the fourth. And what can you add to it? Right, so what's a negative 1 plus a negative 6? Negative 7m to the fourth. Is that one in standard form? No. So what will it look like once we rewrite it? plus, because that's a positive 12m cubed. What is the name of that one? Quartic, because it's degree 4. 4 is your highest exponent, and then binomial. 2 terms is binomial. Okay, now let's go down to the bottom. There's 2 more additions. Well, we're practicing what we learned yesterday before we move on. Okay, the first term I see is negative 2k squared. What can you combine with it? 7k squared. And you're asked to add them. So what's a negative 2 plus 7? 5. So 5k squared. Okay, then the next term you get to is 5k to the 4th. What could you add to it? And what happens? They cancel because they're opposites. It's the exact same thing but opposite signs, so it cancels out when you add them. And then we get to negative 8, which can be added to negative 7. Negative 8 plus negative 7 is negative 15. Is that in standard form? What do we name it? Quadratic. Degree 2 is quadratic. And then binomial because it has 2 terms. Remember, 1 term is monomial, 2 terms is binomial, 3 is trinomial. After that, you just say polynomial with however many terms. For the degrees, degree 0 is constant. Okay, because remember, degree 0 means there's no exponent at all. So it's just a regular number with no variable, and that's a constant. Degree 1 is linear. Degree 2 is quadratic, and degree 3 is cubic, and degree 4 is quartic. After that, there are special names, but I'll just allow you to say degree 5, degree 6, whatever. Okay, you're not going to see many of those anyway on your work. Okay, let's try number 20, last addition one. 7n squared can be added to what? That's not squared. Negative 1n squared. And what do you get? 6n squared. Okay, then the next term is negative 7. Can you add anything to it? Okay, what's negative 7 plus negative 5? And then we have a 6n to the 4th. Can you add anything to it? No. There's no other term. Okay, but adding 0 to it would not change it. Okay? Shh, be quiet. Okay, and then the next term that we see is 6n. So, and it also doesn't have anything that we can combine to it, so bring it down. Is that in standard form? Joe Marion, what will it look like once it's in standard form? Okay. And don't forget your plus. Shh, be quiet, be quiet. Okay, what do we name it? What do we name it?
Quartic.
Right. Okay, now let's go back to page 15 and we are going to start subtraction. Page 15. Okay, turn back to page 15 and today we're going to be subtracting polynomials.
I got it, man. Hold on. 2 seconds, man. 2 seconds, man. Come on.
Shh, be quiet. All right, shh, we're going to start down here. Okay, subtracting is also very easy, but there is one minor difference.
Wait, where are you?
Well, on page 15. Okay. Subtraction can become tricky at times because when you're subtracting and then you're subtracting a negative, you'll have to remember that minus a negative becomes a positive. And a lot of times that's hard for students to remember and they get it wrong because of it. So, for that reason, we're not going to subtract. We're going to change it to an addition problem. Okay? But to be able to do that, you have to do something else. Right. This is like a negative 1 on the outside. So if we distribute the negative 1 to 7x squared, it will become a negative 7x squared. If you distribute this negative 1 to negative 5x, it will become a positive 5x. And if you distribute the negative 1 to the 4, it will become a negative 4. Now, since the negative is right here, it does not affect this trinomial. It will remain, be quiet, 3x squared plus 5x minus 2. Okay. Shh, we're on this problem right here. Okay, so now we have changed it to an addition problem. So after you have distributed that negative 1 to everything after it, you just add, just like we did yesterday. So 3x squared can be added to what? Negative 7x squared. And when you add those, you get, right, negative 4x squared. 5x can be added to positive 5x. And when you add them, you get 10x. Okay, and then negative 2 can be added to negative 4. And when you add those, you get negative 6. Is this one in standard form? Yes. What's the name of it? Quadratic trinomial. Right. Okay, so the only difference with subtraction is before you start, you're going to distribute the negative sign to everything after it, and then you can just add like we did yesterday. Okay, so let's try another one. Can I erase? All right, so remember, we don't like subtracting because sometimes it can get tricky when we're subtracting a negative, so we're going to change it to addition. But for that to happen, what do we have to do? Right, everything that came after it, you're going to change because that negative times x squared will become a negative x squared. Negative times 4x is negative 4x, and then negative times a negative 1, yes, will become a positive 1. Does it affect the trinomial before the sign? No. So it will just come down the same. Now that we've done that step, we can just add, just like yesterday. So 6x squared can add with what other term? But what kind of x squared? Negative 1x squared. And when you do 6 plus negative 1, you get a 5x squared. Okay, then the next term I get to is this 2x. What could we add to it? Okay, and when you add 2 plus a negative 4, you get a, right? And then the next term I get to is negative 2. And when you add, what do you add to it? And that becomes negative 1. Is this in standard form? Okay, what's the name? Right, quadratic because it's degree 2, trinomial because it's 3 terms. Okay, so everybody got it? All right. So what's the first thing I need to do? Right. And to be able to do that, you have to do what? Right, change everything that came after it. Because this is like a negative 1 that you are distributing. So negative 1 times 3y squared is? And then negative 1 times negative 1y is? Positive y. And then negative 1 times negative 4 is? Positive 4. It does not affect the trinomial that was in front, though. Okay, now we just add them. So the first thing I see is 2y squared. Is there anything we can add to it? Right, what's 2 plus a negative 3? Right. Okay, then the next term I see is a negative y, and it's a negative 1y, right? Is there anything we can add to it? This 1y. Okay, so when we add those, right, they cancel out because they're opposites. Okay, and then the next term I get to is 3. Is there anything I can add to it? 4. So positive 7. Make sure you're writing a sign when it's positive. You can't just have a blank between those two terms. Okay, is it in standard form? Okay, so what do we name it? Quadratic binomial, right. You can, but remember, some of these are also quartic. So if you're putting Q for quadratic and you put Q for quartic, then I won't know what's what. Okay. Everybody got it? Okay, why don't you take a second and try the next two by yourself, and then I'll give you the answers in a second. Not right this second. Right. Shh. Okay. We changed this to addition, which causes this to become negative, this to become, and this to become positive. Okay, so when you combine the y squareds, what happened? They canceled. When you combined your y's to the first, what happened? Negative 4y. And then when you combined your constants, what happened? They cancel because negative 6 plus 6 is 0. So if that's the final answer, what's the name of it? Linear. No. Constant is when it has no variable. Monomial because it's one term. Okay, the next one, the first thing we have to do is change it to addition, but to be able to do that, you change every sign after it. Okay, so now we have 4x squared plus negative 4x squared, which is 0. So cancel it. 3x plus negative 3x, you have a 3 plus a negative 3. 0. Wait, is that a negative? Let me look at my sign. Oh, okay, it becomes a positive. So, yeah, it's 6x. Okay, and then 5 plus 5. Did I erase that one too? That's a plus, so that becomes a negative. Yeah, I accidentally erased it on the other one. You see now why earlier I was rewriting the whole thing? What else am I doing? Great. Okay, 5 plus negative 5 does cancel. But does everybody see why earlier when I was teaching, I wrote the whole thing over again because of what can happen with your signs? Yeah. Okay, so what is the name? Linear monomial. So for those of you who are just writing it within the problem like that, you've got to be careful. Make sure you make it dark, the changes, so you don't miss it. Okay, now let's go down to these 4 problems below, which are the same thing. They're just written vertically. Go ahead. Okay. Okay, let's see if she did it right. Change it to addition, which means every sign after it changes. So that's a negative, that's a positive, and then that's a negative. So you have a 3 plus a negative 2, which is 1. Because 3 plus negative 2 is the same thing as what? 3 minus 2. And then you have a 5 plus a 3, which is 8. And then a negative 2 plus a negative 7, which is negative 9. Okay, because you have negative 2 plus negative 7. Okay, what do we name that one? Quadratic trinomial, right. Shh, be quiet. All right, for the next one, change it to addition, which will make this trinomial what? A negative a squared plus 6a, and then a negative 3. So when you combine your a squared terms, how many do you have now? 4a squared. Because this one's a negative 1, and 5 minus 1 is 4. Negative 2a plus a negative 6a is, what was the sign before? It was a positive, it looks like. Negative 2 plus negative 6, right? So negative 8a. Look, guys. Okay, let me check my signs. Yeah. It was already negative, so now it's positive. Okay. So negative 2 plus 6 is positive 4a. Positive 4a. Shh. Okay, we got it. And then negative 8 plus a negative 3 is negative 11. What do we name this one? Quadratic trinomial. Okay, now let's try the last 2 and then I'll give you your assignment. This one? This is minus. Oh, no, that's just, yeah. It's just a from the copying machine. Okay, let's quickly do these two. This is subtraction, so we change it to addition. I'm going to try to write mine in a different color so they stand out. So that becomes negative, this becomes negative, and this becomes negative. So 4 plus negative 4, 0. Negative 3 plus negative 3, negative 6. And 2 plus negative 6, negative 4. What do we name it? Linear. Binomial. Linear because what's the highest exponent? 1. Shh, guys, focus. We're almost done. Okay, last one. What can I combine with the 8x squared? Nothing, so it just drops down. Don't forget, though, we're changing it over to addition, which makes that a negative and that a negative. So now we have a negative 8x plus a negative 4x, which is a negative 12x. And then we have a negative 3 plus a negative 2, which is a negative 5. Now, what do we name this one? Yes. Okay, now I want you to turn to page 16. And you are going to finish it. So you're going to be doing 1, 3, 4, and 10. Right now, though, okay, because we still have 9 minutes, so you need to get busy on this now.